Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Here's what's making news right now.
A future in which the history of violence and marginalization suffered by our Indigenous brothers and sisters is never repeated.
Well, we don't know what the package consists of yet. It is out of blue. We didn't expect to hear this. Don't know exactly what reduction of manpower means right now.
I'm happy that it's not Johnny Rebel. I would hope that the people who were involved in changing the name to Stinger actually took everything into consideration.
Thanks for joining us. We'll have more on day 2 of the Pope's visit to Canada in just a moment. But first, Stelantis is reducing its workforce. The company says it's offering buyouts to some of its employees here in Windsor and in Brampton. And our Jacob Barker has been tracking all this and joins us now live from the plant. Jacob, this is all happening as the company is also in the midst of a multi-billion-dollar shift to electric vehicle production. So major changes at the moment. And you were at the plant this afternoon for shift change. So I imagine workers have some thoughts on all this. What did you hear from them?
Well, workers that were coming in and out of the plant today were just learning about this, and they didn't yet know all the details of just how this would work. But the company does say that it is a retirement incentive program, and it will be based on seniority, who gets it and who doesn't. I did speak with a couple of workers, both of whom believed that they would be eligible for these packages when they're offered, but both of them had very different answers to the question I was asking.
I think it's a good thing, yeah.
Okay, why?
Well, number one, junior people will be able to stay at work, and I'll be able to get out of here. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
You ready to?
I'm ready to go, buddy. I'm almost 63, so yeah.
Where are you at?
I'm right near the top.
Right near the top.
Yeah, I started here when minivan started back in '84.
Okay. So would you take it?
I don't know. I have to crunch the numbers. I have to see the package and crunch the numbers.
So, Jacob, when people hear about a reduction in workforce, some might wonder, could this mean layoffs?
Yeah, that's exactly what one of those workers was wondering when I spoke with him this afternoon. But we did put that to the company, but they wouldn't say one way or another whether they would be laying anybody off or not as part of this. They also refused to do an on-camera interview with us today, but they did say that they are doing this to find efficiencies in their operations. And you do also have to remember, Kat, like you mentioned at the beginning there, that they are in the midst of going electric here. They're building a battery plant here in the city, and they will be building electric vehicles in the plant here soon. So they did say that they do remain committed to their Canadian operations. And also when it comes to a third shift, you'll remember there was a third shift of workers that got cut here a couple of years ago. They do remain committed to bringing that third shift back eventually.
And Jacob, what are you hearing from the union on all this?
Yeah, I did reach out to Unifor 444, tried to speak with its president, Dave Cassidy, today. He was out of town and unreachable. I know a lot of the workers here wanted to hear from him as well, but we're all going to have to wait for that. Katerina.
Thanks for this, Jacob. CBC's Jacob Barker live from the Windsor Assembly Plant for us tonight. Meanwhile, 40 complaints have come in to American safety regulators about an issue with the Windsor-built Chrysler Pacifica. It's one of 3 probes looking into safety issues in Stelantis vehicles. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says a problem with the transmission can cause the plug-in hybrid version of the minivans to lose power. The agency is investigating 21,000 Pacificas from the 2019 through 21 model years. So far, there has been no recall issued. A change has come to Riverside Secondary School. Their mascot and team, the Rebels, is no more. The public school board says that's because of its racist roots. The issue was flagged by students months ago, but as Jennifer LaGrassa reports, for some alumni, this is years in the making.
The Riverside Rebels have made a change. They'll soon be the Riverside Stingers. Earlier this year, the Greater Essex County District School Board started the process of changing the name. The board told CBC News at the time that students and alumni found that the name had racist roots, connections to the Confederate flag, and singer Johnny Rebel.
We really did not like the name, especially when we found out where it came from. Like, just imagine going to a school and finding out that the mascot you have to wear on your jersey and you have to chant to it and all these other things with school pride has to do with somebody who really hated you. It wasn't a good feeling.
Ebeguze says she understands that some are nostalgic about the old name, but she thinks change is necessary to make spaces inclusive for everyone. The school says it started the name-changing process in February and that this is a soft launch of the new branding. At this time, all Rebel-related symbols have been removed from the school. One former alumni told CBC News that students returned to class after a break from COVID-19 earlier this year to find a lot of the crests and symbols covered up. He says he hoped the board would have used this as a teachable moment.
They weren't even part of the process, and they didn't know why. They didn't know why this was happening. What would have been appropriate would have been to talk to the students, have student meetings at the school, talk to them about the old name, the name Rebel, and some of the possible interpretation.
But the school's principal told CBC News that they did explain the change in name to students and faculty, and they plan to continue to engage the community.
I'm just glad that now, at least this is one step forward to making that change where everybody is going to feel comfortable in a school.
The school's official launch as a hive will take place this September. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
Walkerville is about to get a spruce to enhance its historic aspects. Windsor City Council has just agreed to move ahead with the decade-long plan.
Well, I think it'll benefit a lot of the businesses in our area. It'll significantly improve, let's say it's a tourist destination. It will always help us if people outside the area know the history of Walkerville, the contributions that Hiram Walker made to our community. So we think it would significantly impact the area in a positive way.
Council voted to back several recommendations from city staff about how to proceed with a theme and districting plan in the area. And that includes hiring someone to design a pedestrian-focused street along Argyle Road, featuring distillery structures and unique paving inspired by Walkerville's cobblestone streets. Funding for installing black poles and arms at some traffic lights was also approved, $400,000 worth. Officials say improvements will be paid for through both private and public funding, and it could cost between $10 and $14 million over the next 10 years. Also out of council, a revamping of the 80 Knox Herman Recreation Complex on Windsor's west side is going ahead. It's a scaled-down version of the project since the federal government did not approve a grant request. Some community members have expressed disappointment over this plan, but councilors are encouraging them to use the new facility at the University of Windsor. Construction is expected to begin next year. The Pope is wrapping up his visit to Alberta tonight and then moving on to Quebec. Earlier today, he celebrated Mass at a football stadium in Edmonton. It was a traditional service. And as Olivia Stefanovich reports, some Indigenous people were hoping for more.
A meeting with the faithful. A chance to speak to Catholics directly. About the kind of society they want to build.
A future in which the history of violence and marginalization suffered by our Indigenous brothers and sisters is never repeated.
During his homily, Pope Francis didn't reiterate his residential school apology, something commentators were critical of.
This Mass was a missed opportunity of the celebration of Indigenous spiritual ways.
The Pope's words did resonate with this residential school survivor.
He's trying to direct us, I believe, the path forward.
But he and many others want the church to go further.
What they need to do is to rescind the doctrine of the discovery that really imposed a law on our First Nations people.
I understand that there is a Vatican document that will be coming out that will address that.
This Canadian Archbishop anticipates more from the Church to address the papal decrees that justify the seizure of Indigenous land by colonial powers.
It would be very good if the Pope could make that even clearer.
The atmosphere at the Pope's open-air Mass much different from his visit to Masquachese, where he officially apologized for residential schools, something many survivors hope he builds on as he continues his tour of Canada. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Edmonton.
A national Indian residential school crisis line has been set up to provide support for residential school survivors and others affected. People can access emotional and crisis referral services 24 hours a day at 1-866-925-4419. In other national news, former Prime Minister Stephen Harper is endorsing Pierre Poliev in the Conservative leadership race.
Pierre Poliev was a strong minister in my government. In the past several years, he's been our party's most vocal and effective critic of the Trudeau Liberals.
Harper has never endorsed a candidate during a leadership race before. Poliev served in 2 cabinet roles under Harper, and Harper says Poliev has the best shot at leading the party to victory in the next federal election. The party will announce its new leader on September 10th. The fallout continues from Hockey Canada's handling of sexual assault allegations. The Commons Heritage Committee is holding 2 days of hearings, and a variety of officials are giving testimony. The committee is trying to find out what happened when Hockey Canada and Sport Canada learned of an alleged group sexual assault involving players in 2018. CBC's Marina von Stackelberg has the details on day 1.
How can you call your investigation independent when Hockey Canada is paying the bills on it?
This lawyer hired by Hockey Canada 4 years ago to look into serious allegations of sexual assault, hauled before a House of Commons Emergency Committee meeting. Danielle Robitaille says her investigation is reopened. Unlike last time, the hockey players in question must participate, or their names will be made public, and
they will receive a lifetime ban in participating in Hockey Canada.
This spring, Hockey Canada settled a $3.5 million lawsuit. A woman alleges she was sexually assaulted in 2018 by 8 former CHL players following an event in London, Ontario. Robitaille says she spent 18 months investigating, but stopped when the alleged victim wouldn't give a statement.
Is it acceptable that we drop any further investigation because there's no official complaint?
I appreciate that it's very frustrating to Canadians that we don't have an outcome yet. This is something that we have seen in the area of sexual violence in the justice sector as well. And what I can say is justice takes time.
Sport Canada, the government body that provides funding to Hockey Canada, was also questioned. Officials told the committee they've known about the allegations since 2018, but they never followed up with Hockey Canada and never told the Minister of Sport.
They could have stopped this. Sport Canada needs to own this as much as Hockey Canada.
Sport Canada officials were also asked why they waited to pull funding this spring when they knew about the allegations 4 years ago.
You want these organizations to reveal these cases. You want those organizations to actually take action on that. You don't want them to try to hide it.
I think it's fair to say Canadians have lost confidence. They've lost confidence in Hockey Canada. They're losing confidence in Sports Canada.
Next, the committee will once again hear from Hockey Canada's top brass, as well as leaders of major junior hockey leagues across the country. They'll be questioned about what they did or didn't do about the allegations. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
To international news now. Members of the European Union have agreed on a plan to ration natural gas this winter. It's an effort to protect against further supply cuts by Russia. The agreement calls for voluntary reductions in consumption, along with mandatory measures if needed. CBC's Katie Nicholson has the details.
They came from 27 countries, each with their own agenda, but one shared problem.
The winter is coming, and we don't know how cold it will be, but what we know for sure that Putin will continue to play his dirty games.
They emerged with a deal and a message.
To Putin and to Russia, you won't split us.
EU members agreed to reduce gas by 15% from August to March. There are exemptions for island nations and Baltic states, to be expected, says the EU Energy Commissioner, as different countries have different realities.
The most crucial outcome is that we will start saving gas now, and that we have a blueprint to act together in a coordinated way if the situation worsens.
And Russia has hinted it might. State-controlled Gazprom announced another drastic cut to the gas delivered through its main pipeline feeding Europe, starting tomorrow, prompting this reaction from the Ukrainian president. The gas blackmail of Europe, which only gets worse every month, he says, is needed by a terrorist state to make the life of every European worse. That's why there are concerns the EU's new energy target doesn't go far enough.
15% would probably not be enough, given what the Russians have just announced.
But Europe may get some help through the winter.
If you look at the climate projections, it looks like we'll see warmer, wetter winters across northern parts of Europe. So that would mean energy consumption during the winter should go down.
But thanks to climate change, extreme weather events are also possible, like the 2018 Beast from the East, which brought ice and snowstorms across the UK and Europe as far south as the Mediterranean.
We may have periods where we get prolonged cold periods for a week or two where the energy consumption will dramatically go up.
And if temperatures plunge, EU leaders hope today's deal will provide a little insulation. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, London.
Another sign that the new Cold War is getting colder. The new head of the Russian Space Agency says they will be pulling out of the International Space Station after 2024. The announcement was made during a meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and the Director General of Roscosmos. The space agency chief says Russia intends to focus on building its own orbiting outpost. The decision caught the space station's and other main partner, NASA, by surprise. The U.S. Space Agency had been hoping to maintain the relationship until 2030. The space station is one of the last links of civil cooperation between the two countries. Since Russia invaded Ukraine, relations have sunk to historic lows. The Russian decision puts the future of the space station into question. Let's take a live look outside there. It's sunny right now with just a few clouds expected overnight. We do have a chance of showers for tomorrow. Dahlia Asher will be here right after the break, and she'll talk us through it. Dahlia Ashry joins us now for a look at our weather forecast. Dahlia, looks like we have some showers on the way, so talk us through this.
You sure do. I mean, you had those dry conditions and that heat, so a little cool down doesn't hurt anyone. I mean, it's a good time to just have your umbrella on you and get a little bit of a break from the dry conditions that you had the other day, but muggy conditions will be ahead as well. So the current temperatures right now in Windsor, 26 degrees, not so bad. I mean, it's just what's coming in the next few days that you have to kind of keep an eye on. Sarnia, 24 degrees, a little bit on the cooler side there, and Chatham-Kent, 24 as well. And with that Humidex today, I mean, it's not really doing much. Still feeling like 30 degrees in Windsor. Now, what to expect right now, not so bad. You have a little bit of that cloud coverage peeking through, but as we head into tomorrow, well, that's when the clouds start picking up a little bit more. You see that precipitation, that green, well, that's starting to peek through. You get a little bit more of that as we head into 5 o'clock tomorrow, but then we get a lot of that rainfall activity coming through on Thursday. It's making its way from the west, from across the border. You see that green activity right there? That's the precipitation, and that will clear up by Thursday evening. And then Friday, your morning commute, well, it's going to be pretty dry, but you should be expecting a risk of a thunderstorm tomorrow. Now, overnight tonight, temperatures will drop. It will cool down a little bit. We could all use a little bit of that break from the heat. Windsor 16 degrees, Leamington 16. 14 in Sarnia, a little bit cooler there. Tomorrow is going to be 28 degrees. With that Humidex, it will feel like 36 and that 40% chance of rain. And that damp, wet condition will continue until Friday. Friday's 30% chance of rain, but still keep that umbrella on you because you might need it. And then that light at the end of the tunnel that I was talking about earlier. Saturday and Sunday, that sunshine, that sun that you might like, Katerina. 29 degrees on Saturday. 32 on Sunday, so we're going back to those humid, hot, and dry conditions, typical seasonal summer weather.
Exactly. Bit of something for everybody, a bit of dampness for a few days, and then a beautiful weekend ahead.
Exactly.
So.
You get a little, with the plants will like it too. Who likes a little rain and sunshine?
Thanks for that, Dahlia.
Thanks, Katerina.
When we come back, we're going to take a look at the iconic Red River cart of the prairies and the special place it holds in Métis culture. Stay with us. Welcome back. Online tech giant Shopify is laying off 10% of its workforce, about 1,000 people. The Ottawa-based company says it misjudged the growth of e-commerce. Shopify had bet that online shopping would leap ahead by 5 or 10 years from pre-pandemic predictions, and the company had expanded staffing accordingly. But with people reverting to their old shopping habits, it now says it doesn't need as many employees. Most of the people losing their jobs work in recruiting, support, and sales. The Red River Cart is an icon of the Canadian prairies. The utility wagons were used throughout the 19th century and hold a special place in Métis culture. They have a unique appearance, unique construction, and a unique sound. CBC video producer Monty Kruger recently visited one of the few people who still builds these carts.
The cart is unique to the Métis people, and it had to be able to carry a lot of stuff. The Métis invented this cart. It's connected to their French ancestors. There was a cart in France. The significant difference is these are made entirely of wood. One of the things that's unique about the cart is the sound of wood rubbing against wood. The axles could not be lubricated with grease because of the fine prairie dust which would congeal. So therefore, the carts, you can imagine the sound of the carts, say 1,000 carts going along the trail, it would be horrendous. George Moritz is the man who makes these, and it's a dying art. We can't find people who make the authentic Red River cart. It's important to our culture, just as our flag is.
It takes me roughly a month, to make one. This wheel is roughly close to 5 feet tall. The way it's constructed, it has a 10-inch hub. It's made out of birch. If you look at it closely, it has a 6-degree dish. It just gives the carriage stabilization on the prairies. My wife, she's Métis, inspired me to get into the construction of the Red River cart.
The Red River cart provided lots for them, essential shelter at night and protection, and it was safety. They slept under them and they covered them with hide or whatever they had at the time, traveling from Manitoba, Saskatchewan, coming to Alberta, and they would travel the trails.
They could cross water, the wheels would pop off, and they could put them underneath and float on top. They could take it across the stream. Entirely of wood, it would float. And then they put the wheels back on the other side, put the pin back in, and they're good to go.
I've got a partner here that loves to make the Métis carts, and this is me. I live it every day. I'm Métis. I'm proud of it, and I got Cree background, Mi'kmaq. About 10, 15 years, I'd like to see these, carts in historical sites.
And that is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great night.